In recent years, endurance sport has changed drastically. The aim of the game used to be going hard all the time, pushing yourself to the limit in every single session. Now it's all about control, structure, volume, smarter training, not harder training. It's actually kind of like investing. If you're able to put the work in consistently over time, weeks, months, years, you'll eventually see improvement. But there is one major difference compared to investing with money and investing in endurance sport. Typically with money, more time in the market will eventually lead to an exponential growth. With endurance sport, well, the longer you're in, the harder it is to improve. But this begs the question, what if you try and invest more than you have? What if for a short period of time you train an unsustainable amount, leveraging your previous base fitness that you've built? That's why this Easter bank holiday weekend I'm doing something different. A 4-day overreaching block, high training load, high stress, high risk, but if I manage to balance it right, I could also see high reward. Let's get straight to it. You join me here for the first session of the block, the Friday morning. Let's do this. Right then, let's record the audio for this one in one take. Because I'm doing so many sessions here, I'm not going into super great detail, but if you do want to find out more, make sure to give me a follow on Strava. The link will be in the description. For this first workout, I was on Zwift and I decided to throw in some efforts, sort of sweet spot, sub-threshold on the TT bars, and yeah, it went pretty well. I was happy with how I felt throughout, and I hadn't cooked myself after the first session, which was always good. Then it was a quick trip to the shops, got the washing sorted, and then after that we were off to the pool. Again, I wasn't wanting to film too much. The swimming, it was never too busy, but it was never so quiet that I could get some good clips. 5k in the water, done and dusted. Then to round out the training for the day, we were out onto the run. Of the three sports, running is definitely the one where I was going to be careful with how much I was going to increase the volume. Yeah, it's just the injury risk is too great, and I've known from previous times where I thought, oh yeah, I'll pick it up. No, it's not worth it. But I was happy with how this one went. Just nice, easy pace, cruising along, finished up on the trails, and then it was a nice 17 kilometres in total. There we go, first day in the books. Let's do this. Moving on to day 2, and yeah, this one was a pretty monster session. So once again, starting on Zwift, and it was, yeah, instantly I was going to know if I was going to feel good or bad, and I did actually feel pretty good starting again, so I hadn't cooked myself. And after 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, at this point I was starting to feel it, definitely. 5, and finally getting off the bike a grand total of 6 hours later. I think that's the longest one I've done on Zwift. This was a mission. But again, I didn't feel too cooked throughout. I was quite happy with how it went, and it did get me thinking, what would be the most triathlete thing I could do? Well, I headed out the door for a brick run, and again, because I'd fueled it well throughout, the power numbers I'm pushing aren't massive. It was actually pretty cruisy on this run. I was very surprised. Again, keeping it nice and easy, not too much, just over half an hour of running, and another one ticked off. And again, rounding out the day, we were back to the pool to see what was happening, and it ended up being an okay swim, just trying to keep the technique, keep the feel going. 3.5k in total, and this took us on to day 3. And this one, yep, after ending the day in the pool, it was then the usual energetic session in the music with the car in the morning, and this was a massive swim, 8.5k in the pool, and yeah, it ended up being sort of 400, 300, 200, then an easy 100, and then I'd done that 7 times through. It was a mission. For the afternoon, it was going to be the long run that was on the cards. You can see in my hands here, I'm holding the gels. However, when it came to the actual run, yeah, I shot myself in the foot. I decided to wait too long before starting taking the gels, and then I didn't feel completely cooked, but I was pretty tired out. It was a silly move. I was starting to come around by the end, but yeah, it was a nightmare. However, after a bonk reviving lunch and a solid 1 hour nap, I was able to get myself back on the go on Zwift for another session, and again the legs actually felt really good. I was incredibly surprised. Just enough to tick by. An hour and 15 on this one. Yeah, another one in the books. Day 3 completed and 1 day to go. Day 4. This one, I don't know how I was going to feel. I was sort of in between. I was 50-50, but I was getting myself ready to once again go back on Zwift, piecing together the workout, and this time it was going to be some threshold efforts at the start, tempo blocks in the middle, and then threshold efforts to finish at the end. And after the first round of threshold efforts, the legs were feeling pretty good. I was sweating buckets, it was quite warm. You can see the camera all steamed up here. But this was it, the final effort, the last 3-minute threshold shift, and I managed to get through it. I was very surprised at this point to have done it. But once that one was done, I made sure throughout that session and after that one to have fueled up plenty, and this meant that after 3 hours 45 on Zwift, a quick change, we were out the door and it was onto the run. And again, I did make sure to take gels with me this time. I was not facing the same fate as last time. Made it across the rail crossing without the barriers coming down, which was good, and I did pick up the last bit of this run. Of course, at this roundabout, every single time getting caught at the lights, not just on the one side but on the other side. But yeah, managed to pick it up, and I was very surprised. I ended it with a 3:25 kilometre, which, yeah, you might think this training would either make me cooked, but I was actually feeling pretty good, and I was able to stretch off after a solid 16.5 kilometres, knowing that it was the last bit of work that I was going to do on my legs. And then in the afternoon, it was back once again. No matter how good the bike and the run sessions are, time to be humbled at the pool. The last session, and yeah, I managed to get through it. I was probably going to call it quits at 4k, but managed to get 5k done, and that was us finished. And the 4-day Overreaching camp has come to a close. Looking at the overall stats from the 4 days, swimming in the pool, it was 22 kilometres in total. On the bike, on Zwift, again, distance doesn't really count when it's indoor cycling, but it was 14 hours and 45 minutes. And then on the run, I managed to get 70 kilometres. Time-wise, across the 3 sports, it was nearly 26 hours of training across the 4 days, which, yeah, it is the most extreme amount of training I have ever done. And to be honest, I don't actually feel overly tired from it. I guess the proof will be in the pudding in a few days' time if I have just completely frazzled myself. But to be honest, I think, yeah, from this, it's really opened my eyes, especially on the bike, questioning more what is actually possible. However, I do need to make it very clear, I see myself as a well-trained athlete, and I do high volume training the majority of the time anyway. Please, please, please be very careful if you decide to take this on your own. Yeah, it's very high risk, especially for things like overuse injuries. Again, because I'm high volume most of the time anyway, I didn't feel that it was going to be as much of a risk, but just, yeah, be very careful if you decide to take this on yourself. And of course, let me know in the comments your thoughts on this training. I think this one will probably ruffle a few feathers, but yeah, definitely let me know down below what you thought about this. And if this is the first video that you've seen on my channel, and you're wondering what all this is for, well, in 7 weeks time I've got Bolton 70.3 coming up, and yeah, you might think it's a bit excessive for 70.3, however the long term goal is definitely a full distance Ironman, not in 2025 but hopefully in 2026. So if you are new around here and you want to join me on this journey, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you did enjoy this one today, hit that like button as well, and I'll catch yous in the next one.